Three lifelong friends vanished in the Colorado wilderness, and authorities called it a mystery. But the whispers in the woods weren't echoes. They were invitations from something that wanted to replace them. Danielle risked everything to follow a trail of voices, photos, and ancient chants no one else dared believe. But just listen to the chilling twist that turned this nightmare on its head, and why justice, in the end, did not stay silent. Jake shouted into the GoPro, "Let's bag a legend, boys!" His voice echoed off the pines, rifle across his chest, boots kicking up red dust. Mason whooped in response, slapping Caleb's shoulder as they crossed the tree line. It was October 18th, 2020. The sun was dipping fast, bleeding gold across the Colorado wilderness. They weren't amateurs. They'd hunted this area a dozen times. But this trip felt different. They weren't after elk. They were chasing something Jake had read about in an old forum. Something that supposedly howled without a mouth. A shape seen near old logging roads. He called it the legend. The others rolled their eyes, but followed him anyway. Danielle watched the GoPro footage on repeat, frame by frame, looking for signs. She hadn't heard from Jake in over a week. His last message was a 5-second voicemail, static, then a scream, garbled, maybe hers, maybe his. It played on a loop in her mind as she drove 4 hours straight, hands white on the wheel. No radio, no stops, just road and fear. She reached the ranger station and slammed the voicemail against the glass. Her scream shook the walls. "Do you hear that? That's Jake! That's Jake screaming!" The ranger on duty, a kid barely 20, tried to calm her. But the voicemail ended with a screech that made the dogs outside howl. That's when the search began. November 1st. Helicopters flew in from Boulder, canines from Fort Collins. They swept the ridge lines, scanned thermal maps. Nothing, not even a spark of heat. Danielle joined the search teams. She refused to sit still. She hadn't eaten in days. She walked the riverbeds until her feet bled. Mason's sister, Becca, showed up next. She brought Mason's favorite jacket. She couldn't believe he'd leave it behind. "He never went camping without it," she whispered. "It smells like cigarettes and peppermint. That's Mason." She broke down in the field tent and screamed at a ranger who asked if Mason had ever struggled with mental health. They didn't run. They didn't disappear. Something took them. By day 5, the rescue turned recovery. On day 7, Caleb's parents arrived from Oregon. His father was silent. His mother held a photo of Caleb at age 10, holding a trout with both hands. She pinned it to a pine tree near the trailhead. On day 9, a flare was spotted. Just one. Brief. Faint red light over the ridge. Rangers followed it, climbed 6 miles into the dense woods. Then they found it. The camp. 3 tents, perfectly pitched. Guy lines tight. Fire still smoldering. Coffee cups steaming as if poured minutes before. 3 mugs. One red, one green, one chipped ceramic. Danielle fell to her knees when she saw the red one. Jake's. She had bought it for him last Christmas. "Jake!" she shouted into the trees. "Jake!" No answer. Inside the tents, sleeping bags laid out. Phones still charging. One phone played music on loop, a recording from the trip. Jake singing an old hunting song. Then a deep crackle. Then silence. There were no signs of animals, no claw marks, no footprints leading away, no food touched, no packs taken. It looked like they'd gone to sleep and vanished. Rangers ruled out foul play. No blood, no broken branches, but they'd seen nothing like it. One ranger, a veteran with 22 years of field work, said, "I've pulled bodies out of rivers, found frozen hikers in trees, but this doesn't feel right." Danielle stayed by the camp as the sun fell. She begged them to let her sleep there, just one night. "He'll come back," she said. "He has to come back." They refused, howled her back to base.
She punched the inside of the ATV until her knuckles split. That night, a wind ripped through the trees so violently, 2 tents were torn. No animals triggered the perimeter alarms, no motion detected. But every camera picked up one strange glitch. Just after 2:13 a.m., the footage skipped 3 seconds. Across every device. 3 seconds gone, like something blinked. By sunrise, the camp looked untouched again. Rangers packed it up, bagged everything, tagged the mugs, the phones, the rifles. But something didn't sit right. A rookie, just weeks on the job, swore the green mug moved positions twice. Said he felt watched. Danielle demanded to see the footage. Rangers denied her. She hacked the system from her laptop, pulled a frame-by-frame archive. What she saw made her stomach drop. In one tent, at 2:13 a.m., the side fabric bent inward, as if something had breathed in. And it wasn't wind. She didn't tell the Rangers. She told Eric, Jake's brother. He drove overnight. She showed him the footage. He didn't speak, just stared. Then said, "We need to go back." Danielle grabbed her boots, blood still fresh on her fingers. She didn't hesitate. They were going back into the trees. They didn't know it yet, but the forest had been waiting.
Danielle stood just outside the tent, heart jackhammering. The zipper hadn't been touched. No footprints, no sounds but the gentle hiss of the fire. Her breath fogged the air. Next to her, Eric gripped his flashlight like a weapon. The coffee steamed beside them, untouched. It smelled fresh, too fresh. No frost on the mugs. Danielle leaned closer, hand trembling. "Don't touch it," Eric whispered. "Why? You think it's cursed?" "I think it's waiting." She yanked the flap open. Nothing. Just sleeping bags, 3 of them, zipped up, neat. One flashlight left on, pointed straight at the ceiling of the tent. Danielle crawled inside. She pressed her hand into one of the bags. Warm. They were here, recently. Jake was here, Eric. He didn't answer. He stood still, staring at the tree line. The wind had stopped. No birds, no insects. Silence like a vacuum. "You hear that?" he said. "What?" "Exactly." They set up a motion camera just outside the tents, an old one Danielle had borrowed from a wildlife group. No infrared, just audio. She pressed record. They sat near the fire. Time passed. The smoke didn't rise, it coiled. Danielle whispered, "Look at that." The smoke turned sideways, snaked through the trees. Eric followed it with his eyes. "This isn't wind. That's not how smoke works." "I know." Then came the voice, barely audible, a dry scrape, like paper dragged on stone. Danielle's head snapped up. "Did you hear that?" Eric didn't move. Again. It came once more, low, whispered, 3 syllables. "Dikal Muth." Danielle's breath caught, her body tensed. Eric stood slowly, backing toward the tent. Nope, nope, nope. He tripped over the deck of cards. They scattered like a silent explosion. Danielle bent down. One card landed face up, the Queen of Hearts, torn in half. She pocketed it. They checked the camera. Audio waveforms spiked around 2:13 a.m. Same moment, same whisper. "Dikal Muth." Eric shook his head. "This is a prank, some psycho in the woods." Danielle turned to him, voice cold. That was Jake's voice. He looked away. "No, don't do that." "You said you recognized it." He didn't answer. She replayed the tape, over and over, slower, louder. It grew distorted, warped, one syllable reversed, a hidden gasp. And then, in the distance, something stepped. Not a deer, not a bear. 2 feet. Deliberate, crushing frost. Danielle grabbed her flashlight, shined it toward the sound. Nothing. But then they saw it. A shadow, between trees. Still,
Too still. It didn't move like an animal. It didn't move at all. Eric whispered, "Back inside, now." They ducked into the tent, zipped it up. Inside, the air changed, denser, hard to breathe. Danielle turned off her light. Silence returned, until the tent wall bent inward. Not from wind, not from touch, like breath.
Danielle clutched Eric's hand. The breath grew heavier, faster. Then, laughter. Childlike. Just outside the tent. Eric couldn't speak. Danielle reached into her pocket, pulled out the Queen of Hearts. It had changed. Now both faces stared outward. Two identical queens. And both were whispering. She dropped it. The tent wall began to glow, faint, blue. 3 silhouettes appeared. Not outside, inside. But Danielle and Eric were the only ones inside. The shapes didn't move, just stared. Eric reached for the zipper. Danielle slapped his hand. "Don't. We have to get out." That's what it wants. The whispers grew louder. "Deco muth." Over and over. Then the flare gun. Eric aimed it at the ceiling of the tent. "This is insane. Fire won't stop it," Danielle whispered. "Then what will?" "Not feeding it." He hesitated, lowered the gun. The tent wall snapped back to normal. The light faded. The voices stopped. But the coffee outside, still steaming, still untouched. They crawled out slowly. Everything looked the same. The fire hissed. The forest slept. Danielle grabbed the mugs, dumped them out. The liquid didn't spill. It evaporated. Eric picked up the deck of cards. Every card now showed the same thing. A tent. Empty. He threw them into the fire. Danielle looked up and froze. The trees had shifted, bent inward, forming a perfect circle around the camp. Like they were watching, like they'd always been watching. She whispered, "Let's go." Eric didn't argue. They walked out in silence, not speaking until they saw the ranger station lights. Danielle collapsed at the entrance. She called someone, a friend in tech, sent the audio file, waited. He texted back. "I slowed it, reversed it. One part stands out." "What?" "It says your name." She stared at the screen. It repeated, "Danielle," over and over. Same voice, same whisper. Danielle smashed the phone, but the voice lingered, in her head, in the trees behind them. Deco muth. Danielle sat on the floor of the ranger station, hands shaking. The phone buzzed again. No caller ID. She didn't answer, just watched the screen. It vibrated off the table and onto the floor. When it hit, the speaker popped. 3 words escaped through the crackling static. "Decal muff." Same voice, same cadence, but slower, like someone dragging their breath through a tunnel. Eric kicked the phone under a desk. It landed in silence. The room stayed still for too long. "You heard that, right?" she said. "Not just heard, felt it," Eric replied. "In my jaw, like pressure. That wasn't just sound." They didn't sleep that night. Next morning, a black SUV pulled up. No license plates, no markings. 2 men stepped out, identical buzz cuts, black jackets, emotionless faces. One spoke. "Are you Danielle Wexler?" She nodded. "And Eric Bowen?" He didn't move. "We need to see the footage." Danielle hesitated. "You FBI?" They flashed IDs, too quickly. "This stays confidential." Eric handed them a USB. They didn't say thank you. By noon, every trail cam was gone, seized. Rangers weren't told why. One tried to protest. The taller agent stepped forward. "This isn't a wildlife matter anymore." That night, Danielle noticed something off. Her laptop had been touched. The webcam light blinked once. She yanked the cord from the wall. Eric checked his voicemail. 1 message. No sound, just breathing. 8 minutes straight. He recognized the rhythm. "It's the same as the tents, same timing." Danielle whispered, "They're tracking us." They drove to a coffee shop outside the park. Burner phones, new emails.
Danielle uploaded the footage anonymously. Within 6 hours, it had 47,000 views. Reddit exploded. Conspiracy threads erupted. One comment stood out. "Seen the whisperers too. They never leave the tent, not until you call them." It was posted by a user named Demuth77. The account vanished 2 minutes later. Eric stared at the screen. That name, DeCall Muff. What if it's not a name? What if it's a command? Danielle looked up. Or an address. The next day, the camp caught fire. Rangers called it unexplained ignition. Photos showed black ash where tents had stood. Only thing left untouched, the 3 coffee mugs, still standing, clean, no soot, perfectly lined up. The fire chief said accelerant was involved, but no containers found. Eric stared at the photo. Someone torched it, right after we uploaded. They're erasing it. Danielle turned to him. Not just the evidence, the memory. He didn't answer. He was watching the shadows under the trees. They weren't still. Back at the motel, Danielle's phone rang again. She let it go to voicemail. This time, it spoke full sentences. Her name, Jake's voice, whispering, but wrong, broken cadence, too slow, then too fast. "Danielle, come back, come back. It's safe now. The fire kept us warm. We miss you." She threw the phone in the tub and turned on the tap. It rang underwater. Eric backed away. "We're not dealing with people anymore." Danielle didn't look up. They sounded like Jake. They felt like Jake. He shook his head. That's what they want. Later that night, a ranger knocked. He was pale, sweating. I shouldn't be here." Danielle opened the door. "Then don't be." He stepped inside anyway. "I heard what they said. The agents. Linguistic contamination. They're afraid the voice spreads." "Spreads how?" He looked at her with bloodshot eyes. "Through memory. You remember it, and that counts." He pulled something from his coat, a plastic evidence bag. Inside, a small piece of tent fabric, burnt at the edge. "I shouldn't have kept this, but I had to." Danielle touched the bag. The lights flickered. Eric grabbed her wrist. "Drop it." The ranger kept talking. "The phrase isn't just sound, it's structure. It rewires how your brain stores language. It overrides recognition, makes you forget what's yours." He broke down. "I haven't dreamt in English for 3 nights." Danielle stared at him. "What language then?" He wiped his face. "I don't know, but when I wake up, I write symbols, circles, always 3, and I hear the word." Eric cut him off. "Don't say it again." Too late. The word slipped out. "DeCall Muff." Lights went out. The room dropped 10 degrees. Outside, a figure stood under the street lamp, not moving, not walking, just standing, like a cutout in the snow. Danielle reached for the curtain. The figure looked up. It had no eyes, only a mouth that didn't move. But somehow, she heard it speak, inside her skull. "Come back." She gasped, shut the curtain. Eric grabbed the ranger's collar. "You brought it here." "I didn't mean to." Danielle whispered, "It's already inside." The fire alarm triggered, but there was no smoke, only the sound of a whisper, looping through every speaker in the room. One phrase, same 3 syllables, and a new word added to the end. "Of DeCall, Danielle."
Eric's laptop buzzed at 3:07 a.m. No alert, just a folder opening by itself. Inside, a single MP3 file. Title, Eric_final.wave. He played it. A whisper, his own voice, chanting, strained, like dragged over gravel. "DeCall Muth," then sobbing, then silence. Danielle leaned over his shoulder. "You didn't record this? I've never said those words aloud, ever." She didn't believe him at first, but the file's metadata showed a timestamp from 5 hours ago while Eric was asleep on the motel bed next to her. "Maybe you talk in your sleep?"
Then who added reverb? Danielle turned to her laptop. There was a new file waiting. No name, just an icon, an eye carved into a triangle. She double-clicked. Video. No buffering. Jake sat by a campfire, silent, lips moving, but the fire didn't crackle. The trees behind him didn't move. His eyes were open, but empty. Frost clung to his beard. His body didn't breathe. Danielle muted it. She couldn't listen. That's him. Eric nodded, frozen. Something's wrong with his mouth. Look, it's not synced. They scrubbed forward. At 48 seconds, Jake blinked. Only one eye moved. The other melted. Not visibly, not like flesh, like a filter glitch. Then her phone buzzed. One image. The 3 tenths. Coffee steaming. But 4 cups. Who's the fourth for? They stared at the image. Eric whispered. One for each whisperer. Danielle felt sick. What if it's not about them anymore? What if it's about who listens? Her laptop dinged again. Live feed. Campfire flickering. Jake gone. Just the mugs. All 4. Lined up. Then a shadow leaned into frame. A face. It didn't have eyes. Only sockets. But it stared. Danielle slammed the laptop shut. I'm done. We have to get out. Eric didn't move. It already knows our names. I don't care. I'm leaving. She grabbed her bag, her wallet, keys. Her phone buzzed again. Same number. No caller ID. This time a message. Not a voice. A photo. Her. Asleep in the motel bed. From above. Eric snatched the phone. This was taken tonight. They searched the ceiling, the vents, the bathroom. No camera, no device. Eric flipped the mattress. Nothing. Then they heard it. From the hallway. A knock. Soft. Then again. Knock. Knock. 3 seconds passed. Then the whisper. De Muth. Right behind the door. Danielle backed away. Eric grabbed the dresser, shoved it against the handle. We're not opening it, she whispered. It doesn't need doors. Her laptop turned on. By itself. The video restarted. Jake was back. Now he was facing the camera. Mouth wide. Too wide. Like bone had been removed. Inside, not darkness. Static. Endless static. Eric slammed it shut, yanked the cord. Danielle looked at her phone again. Now 5 cups. The photo had changed. Someone was editing it live. Each refresh, new detail. Next image, a shadow in the background. Then closer. Then standing inside the tent. It's documenting us. No, Danielle whispered. It's recruiting. Eric opened a private browser, typed a name he hadn't said in 10 years. His ex, Dana. They hadn't spoken since college. He remembered one thing. She'd posted once about a dream in the woods, heard a voice that made her cry in languages he didn't know. Her post was deleted a day later, but now it was back, reposted 5 minutes ago. Same timestamp. No text. Only one word. Returned. Danielle stared at it. That's not coincidence. It's a web. Eric clicked on the username. dmuth77. The one from Reddit. The account now had a profile image. Jake. But distorted. One side smiling. The other melting. Danielle whispered. It's using his face. Eric closed the tab. The lights flickered. Danielle's phone lit up again. Video call. She declined. It rang again. Same number. Again. She answered. Silence. Then a voice. Her own. Danielle, come back. Come back. You forgot your cup. She threw the phone. Eric stared at the broken screen. Inside the crack, a faint image glowed. 3 tenths. Fire. And now, 6 mugs. 2 more than before. He looked at Danielle. It's growing. She whispered. It won't stop until it drinks from all of us. And somewhere outside the motel, deep in the static, the forest exhaled. Eric stared at the cracked walkie-talkie on the floor. No batteries, no power. But it had spoken. Caleb's voice. Mason's too. Their tone wasn't panicked. It was drained, hollow, like people who had forgotten how to feel.
Danielle shoved clothes into her bag. "You're not thinking," he said. "I'm done thinking. It's bait." She zipped the bag. "Or it's them, and we left them behind." He grabbed her wrist. "We saw them. They weren't alive." She pulled away. "Then why do they sound like they're trying to be?" Eric didn't answer. He looked down. The walkie-talkie still hissed. Then, "Don't let it out." Danielle froze. "It's not asking for help. It's warning us." Eric stepped back. "So why go back?" "To see what they're keeping in." She stormed toward the door. Eric hesitated. "Danielle, I'm not waiting for the whisper to come to me." They drove in silence. Colorado roads blurred past like scars across the earth. The woods ahead grew darker by the mile. No moon, no stars. Danielle gripped the wheel. "This isn't about rescue anymore." "Then what?" "Containment." They parked near the ranger gate, hiked the rest by flashlight. Snow crunched beneath their boots, but no prints stayed behind. The wind had stopped. The trees leaned inward. Eric whispered, "Do you see that?" Danielle looked up. The trees moved. "They're circling the site." At the campsite, the tents were back, exactly as before. Coffee steaming, fire flickering. 4 mugs now, then 5. Eric scanned the tree line. Nothing. Then, a sound. The same voice. "Mason! Mason, come in!" Eric answered instinctively. "Mason's not here. Who is this?" Silence. Then, "Caleb, you're too close. You shouldn't have returned." Danielle grabbed the walkie. "Where are you?" Crackle. Then Caleb's voice again. "Below." Eric whispered, "There's no below." Danielle shined her flashlight across the clearing. "Unless." She walked to the fire pit. The coals hissed. Steam rose, but there was no heat. Danielle stepped on it. It collapsed. Beneath, a trapdoor. Steel, bolted, icy to the touch. Eric shouted, "Wait, don't open that." She knelt, scratched frost from the surface. Words were carved inside. Latin, faded. She Googled. Translation, "Do not remember their names." Eric read it aloud, slowly. The wind came back, hard, violent. Tents flapped. The fire roared blue. Voices screamed in the trees. Eric clutched his head. "It's inside again. The sound, the sound." Danielle pried open the door. A narrow tunnel, cold, smelling of iron. Steps led down. She looked down. "Coming?" He didn't speak, just followed. Inside, the darkness swallowed their lights. The walkie buzzed again. "It hears you now. Don't speak your name." They descended. 10 feet, then 20. The passage opened into a cavern. Not natural. Carved. Symbols lined the walls. 3 circles, repeating. In the center, 3 cots. Mason, Caleb, Jake. Eyes open, breathing, but not blinking. Danielle stepped closer. Jake whispered. Not in English, but she understood. "Danielle, you made it." Her knees buckled. Eric held her up. "They're alive." Jake turned his head. "We're not." Danielle cried. "Then what are you?" Caleb sat up. "Prisoners. Mason, too. We opened it once. Now it wears our names." Jake's eyes rolled back. "You brought a 4th cup." The walls pulsed. The walkie screamed. Then silence. Eric screamed, "Tell us how to stop it." Jake smiled. "Don't stop it." "Why?" "It's you now." Danielle dropped the walkie. Her voice came through. "Deco Muth." Eric turned to her. Her eyes black, mouth moving, but no sound. Just wind. And beneath them, wood creaked. The floor gave way. They fell. The snow fell silent, thick, suffocating. Danielle stared at the girl in front of them, barefoot, dress soaked, skin blue from cold. But she stood perfectly still, head tilted, eyes wide, unblinking. Eric stepped forward, arm out. "Are you lost?" The girl didn't respond. Danielle's voice cracked.
"What's your name?" No answer. Only one slow exhale, but no breath left her mouth, no fog, no warmth, just the sound of lungs mimicking life. Then she spoke. "You brought it back." Her voice didn't fit. It was old, male, aged, like gravel in windpipes. Danielle stumbled back. That's not her voice. The child smiled. Black teeth, rows of them. Not sharp, wrong, like bone filed smooth. Eric raised the flare again. Back off, now. The girl blinked sideways, then vanished. Not faded, gone. Danielle screamed. Eric spun. The prints in the snow multiplied, dozens now, all bare, all leading toward them. "We need to move." They sprinted. Branches sliced their coats, snow blinded their path, but they kept running until the forest opened. Back to the clearing. Empty. No fire, no tents, no mugs. Just one thing. A mirror. Standing upright, 6 feet tall, not leaning, not broken, just there. Danielle approached. This wasn't here. Eric stepped beside her. Their reflections stared back. But then, the reflections blinked at different times. Danielle froze. "Did you see that?" "Don't look at it." He turned. His reflection didn't. It smiled. Danielle's reflection raised a hand, but she didn't. Eric shouted, "Step back." The mirror cracked. Not shattered, split down the center. A thin black line. Then it widened. From within, something leaned forward. A hand, pale, blue-veined, identical to Danielle's. Then another, Eric's. Their reflections crawled out. Not screaming, smiling. Danielle backed up. "We're not watching a reflection." Eric grabbed her arm. Its replacement. The mirrored version stood tall. No words, just tilted heads. Then the Danielle copy whispered, "We found your names." Eric's double added, "And we wore your faces." Danielle pulled a flare, lit it. The firelight reached them. The copies flickered, sizzled, smoke poured from their mouths. Then they dissolved into ash. Danielle dropped the flare. "What is happening?" Eric pointed. A figure stood at the tree line. The child. But this time she moved. She walked toward them. One step. Then another. Her eyes shifted colors, like she was cycling memories. Eric whispered, "That's not a kid." The child stopped 10 feet away, opened her mouth. The voice this time, Jake's. "Danielle, we never left. We waited, and you brought back the door." Danielle shook her head. "We closed it." "No, you opened it by remembering us." Eric stared at the girl. "It feeds on memory." She nodded and smiled. "Names are doors. Faces are keys. Love is the lock. You loved them. You unlocked it." Danielle's knees gave out. "Why us?" The girl stepped closer. "You answered the whisper. You said it back." Eric shouted, "We didn't." The girl smiled wider. "You thought it." Suddenly, the air collapsed. Wind sucked inward. The trees groaned, and from the ground, roots shot up, twisting, grabbing. One wrapped around Danielle's ankle. She screamed. Eric slashed it with the flare. It burned, but so did the ground. Fire spread in a perfect circle. The girl stepped into it, unaffected. She opened her mouth again. This time, Caleb's voice. "There's only one way to stop it." "How?" The girl whispered. "You must forget." Then the trees behind them cracked, split, and through the trunks, dozens of figures stepped out, all familiar, all wrong. Danielle gasped. "They're everyone it ever took." Eric held the flare higher. Then we end it now. The firelight flickered. So did the figures. But one stepped forward. Danielle's father. He died 5 years ago. She dropped the flare. He opened his mouth. Danielle, don't forget me.
Danielle's breath came in broken gasps. Her legs buckled beneath her. She dropped to her knees, clutching the photo. Jake's face swirled behind her eyelids, whispering, over and over, into that recorder, erasing it, again and again and again. She looked up at Eric, dazed. He was trying to forget. Eric stared at the woods where the girl had vanished. And now it wants you to remember. He turned the Polaroid over. Help her, scratched in childish scrawl. But the handwriting wasn't childlike. It was mirrored, reversed. Danielle blinked. What if it's not a message to me? What do you mean? What if someone left it for it? Eric tensed. A trap? She nodded slowly. A trigger? Eric's voice dropped. For what? Danielle stood shakily. I don't know, but I think Jake was trying to bury something. And this thing, it's digging. The air grew colder, sharp. A pressure filled the clearing, like sound before a thunderclap. The trees ahead shimmered. Something moved behind the bark. A ripple, then silence. Eric grabbed Danielle's hand. We shouldn't stay here. But Danielle didn't move. Her gaze locked on a tree ahead, carved deep into the trunk. Let her forget. Eric read it aloud, then realized the bark was fresh, just carved. No frost in the grooves. Danielle whispered, someone's still trying to stop it. Eric turned. Or someone was part of it. Then, another sound. That mechanical click. The shutter again. Eric spun. No camera. Danielle shouted, show yourself. Silence. Then, from the tree line, a figure stepped out. Not the girl. An older man. Beard, ragged coat, eyes wide with something worse than fear. Recognition. He held up a hand, empty, then pointed to Danielle. Don't say her name. She stepped forward. Who are you? The man's voice cracked like dry wood. The last one who remembered. Eric narrowed his eyes. Remembered what? The man stepped closer, each footstep silent in the snow. The phrase isn't a curse. It's a question. Danielle's hands shook. What question? He didn't blink. Who are you when you forget who you love? Danielle's mouth opened, but nothing came out. The man nodded. That's how it finds the door. Not through sound, through grief. Eric stared at him. You knew Jake? The man didn't answer. He turned, walked into the woods, left no prints. Danielle whispered, I don't know what's real anymore. Eric touched her arm. Then we figure it out, together. But Danielle pulled away. No, we can't. Eric stepped back. Why? She held up the Polaroid again. Look closer. He squinted. His stomach dropped. The photo didn't just show Danielle. Behind her, in the tent shadow, was a silhouette, watching her. Its face was his. Eric gasped. That's not possible. Danielle's voice trembled. That's not you. Eric took another step back. The wind picked up again, sharp, like whispers in a hurricane. Danielle dropped the photo. It landed face up. The ink started to run, then melt. And from the woods, a voice called. Not a whisper, a cry, familiar. Danielle. Jake's voice. Alive, desperate, real. Danielle turned. Eric shouted, No, wait. But she ran, toward the voice, toward the trees, toward the sound of someone she couldn't let go. Danielle traced the letters carved into the boy's headstone. The snow hissed as it hit the cracked granite. Decal Muth, not written, etched from the inside like something had pressed outward. Eric stood back, pale. That grave's not even 10 years old. Danielle didn't blink. That phrase, it's following generations. Eric shook his head. It's not just a curse, it's a cycle. She turned. No, it's a signal. The same pattern keeps repeating. Same place, same vanishing, same voice. Eric stared down at the dirt. Then why is it getting louder now? Danielle crouched. Because someone answered. Eric swallowed. Us. She nodded. Jake first, then me, now you. Suddenly, Eric's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He froze. The screen lit up with an MP3 attachment. No subject, no message. Danielle whispered, "Don't play it." But Eric did. It was the boy's voice, older. "Don't come here. Don't say her name. Don't let it copy you." Danielle backed away. That voice, he died. Eric dropped the phone. It melted through the snow. Not hot, just wrong. Danielle looked around. This thing doesn't kill you, it rewrites you. Eric rubbed his arms. Then what are we now? Danielle pulled out Jake's logbook, flipped past blood-stained pages, old weather notes, gear lists. Then she found it. A map. Hand-drawn, smudged. The trail split into two. One led back. The other dead-ended in a circle, labeled in shaky letters, "No return." Eric pointed. He knew where it was. Danielle narrowed her eyes. And he went anyway? Eric grabbed her shoulder. "So we go too?" Danielle didn't answer. She started walking. Eric followed. As they reached the car, a crow slammed into the windshield. Crack. Its eyes were gone. Eric stared. Danielle whispered, "It's already here." They drove in silence. The road grew darker. No other cars, no signs, just snow. Then a voice through the radio. Not theirs. "Turn around." Eric yanked the dial, static. Danielle stared ahead. That was Mason. Eric checked his phone. No bars. The GPS spun wildly. They reached the trailhead by dusk. But the trees were wrong. Too still, too symmetrical, like waiting. Danielle grabbed her flashlight. Eric hesitated. "Danielle, what if this is a trap?" She turned. "It is." She walked in. He followed. A mile in, their flashlights flickered. Danielle stopped. On the path, footprints, child-sized, leading forward, but never back. Eric crouched. No snow inside the prints, still warm. Danielle whispered, "She's close." Eric's voice cracked. "Who is she?" Danielle didn't turn. "Whoever's been waiting." Suddenly, the woods groaned. A low vibration. The trees bent. The air cracked. Ahead, between two oaks, a doorway. Not wooden, not real, just wrong. Like the world had pinched itself open. A tear in space. Danielle stepped closer. The wind howled. Voices poured through. Not whispers, names. Danielle. Jake. Eric. Eric froze. "It knows us." Danielle reached out, then stopped. "If we cross that, we don't come back the same." Eric pulled her back. "Then let's find another way." She turned to argue, but behind them, nothing. The trail was gone, only trees, new ones, tall, watching. Eric whispered, "We stepped inside already." And the doorway pulsed, waiting. Danielle pressed a tissue to her nose again. The bleeding wouldn't stop. Her hands trembled. Every dream felt like drowning in someone else's memories. Eric sat across from her in the university lab, shirt half lifted, revealing the burn. 3 perfect concentric circles etched into his skin. No blisters, just precision. "It wasn't there last night," he muttered. Danielle didn't answer. She stared at the waveform on the professor's monitor, pulsing in real time. Each loop of the chant had changed its shape, sharper, like it was adjusting.
Dr. Rose leaned in, her face lined with 1,000 old fears. "You see this notch?" Eric squinted. "What about it?" "That's not part of the vocal pattern. That's a carrier frequency, a payload." Danielle backed away. "Are you saying it's transmitting something?" Dr. Rose nodded. "It's not a chant, it's code, acoustic code." Eric frowned. "For what?" She hesitated. "To overwrite memory, identity, perception, like a virus, only for language." Danielle dropped the tissue. Her voice cracked. "Then it's already in us." Rose didn't deny it. "You said you've heard it. That means it's working." Eric clenched his fists. "So how do we stop it?" Rose stared at the waveform, then back at them. "You don't." Danielle's breath caught. "There has to be a way." Rose stood and walked to a locked drawer. She pulled out a cassette tape, labeled in faded pen, 1974, Echo Site Recovery. The last time this surfaced, a researcher made it back. Only one. Eric leaned in. "What happened to him?" She pressed play. A man's voice, rasping. "It's not in the trees. It's in the sound. The sound becomes the shape, and the shape becomes you." Then silence. Then screaming. Danielle yanked the tape out. "Why are you keeping this?" Dr. Rose's eyes were glassy. "Because forgetting isn't possible. The best you can do is resist replacement." Eric whispered. "You think we're being rewritten?" "Not think," Rose said. "No." Danielle turned to Eric. "We need to go back." Eric shook his head. "No, we go deeper. We find where this thing started." Rose laughed, but it wasn't joy. "You don't find it. It finds you." Suddenly, all three phones buzzed, same time. No numbers. A video message. Eric opened his. Jake, pale, silent, sitting in the dark. Behind him, Danielle, smiling. But it wasn't her. Not her eyes. Danielle dropped her phone. "That's not possible." Eric's hand shook. "They're already mimicking us." Rose slammed her laptop shut. "You need to leave, now." "Why?" She walked to the wall and tore down a photo. Behind it, a sigil, burned into the drywall. "Because I heard the chant 20 years ago, and it's almost my turn." Danielle backed toward the door. "What happens when it's your turn?" Rose smiled, but her teeth were wrong. "You become the invitation." Then her voice split. One tone, human. The other, mechanical, hollow, otherworldly. Danielle screamed. Eric pulled her into the hallway. Behind them, Dr. Rose began chanting, not in English, not in any human language, just 3 syllables, over and over. De Kalmuth, De Kalmuth, De Kalmuth. Eric slammed the fire door shut, but the voice didn't stop. It was in the vents, in the lights, in them. Danielle turned to Eric, eyes wide. "We're not stopping this." Eric nodded, breath shallow. "We're decoding it. And now, it's decoding us."
They didn't speak during the drive. Just the crunch of tires over frozen gravel and the low hum of static from Danielle's earpiece. The satellite phone blinked green. Live, recording. Every second counted. She clipped the mic to her jacket. Eric loaded the flare gun with trembling fingers. They stepped out. No snow, just wet soil and an unnatural stillness that wrapped the woods like a vacuum. No birds, no insects, no wind. The forest wasn't silent. It was listening. Danielle scanned the tree line. "You sure it's this way?" Eric nodded. GPS tracked the signal back to the same grid as the first camp. They moved fast, retracing familiar steps. Except nothing looked the same. Trees were straighter, closer together, as if the land itself had grown around them, pressing in. Danielle froze. "The trail, it's gone." No prints, no markers, just moss, black, soft underfoot like velvet. But then, smoke.
thin, white curls rising in the distance. They followed it, into the clearing. 4 tents, 4 fires, 4 cups, and themselves. Danielle gasped. Across the clearing, by the central fire, 4 people sat in a circle, talking, laughing, moving naturally. Eric whispered, "That's us." Danielle dropped to her knees. "That's my voice." From one of the tents, a female voice laughed, her exact cadence, her exact laugh. Eric stepped forward. "What are we looking at?" Danielle didn't answer. Her hands gripped the soil. One of the copies stood. It turned, smiling. "You're just in time," it said. Danielle jerked back. "Don't talk to it." But the other Eric stood now too, calm, warm. "You've come so far. You deserve to rest." The 4 fires flickered, then, all at once, blew out. Darkness swallowed the clearing. Then came the vibration. Not a voice, not music, a sound that didn't pass through ears. It passed through cells. Danielle screamed, clutched her chest. Eric dropped to one knee, gasping. The tent fabric rippled. The soil beneath them moved like breath. From the tree line, black shapes emerged. Human outlines, no faces, no feet, just motion. They glided across the moss, surrounding the clearing. Danielle grabbed Eric's hand. "Light it." He raised the flare gun, fired. The red burst cracked the sky. And for one moment, everything stopped. The shapes froze. The copies flickered. The real Danielle looked into her double's eyes. For a split second, fear. Not hers, its. Then, it screamed. A chorus followed. Dozens of copies, all howling. Danielle shoved Eric. "Run!" They sprinted through the trees. Branches clawed their arms. Something whispered from behind. "De Kalmuth." Over and over, as if the woods themselves repeated it. The GPS died. The mic cracked. Danielle ripped it off. Eric shouted, "The river! Follow the sound!" But there was no river, only the chant. Now layered, male, female, child. Thousands of voices, merging. Danielle stumbled, fell. A hand grabbed her ankle, cold, thin, boneless. She kicked. Eric yanked her up. A head, light, pale, artificial. A ranger tower, half collapsed, but real. They bolted up the ladder. Inside, dust, mold, and an old radio. Eric tried it, static. Danielle collapsed to the floor, sobbing. "We're not getting out?" Eric stood at the window. "Look." The clearing. It was back. 4 tents, 4 fires, 4 cups, and them again. Only now, the doubles weren't moving. They were standing, all 4, facing the tower. Eric whispered, "What if they're not copying us?" Danielle looked up. "Then what are they?" Eric's voice broke. "Replacements." The radio crackled. A voice. "Return the key." Danielle screamed into it. "What key?" Silence. Then one word. Memory. She turned to Eric. The recordings. She ripped open her pack, pulled out Jake's old voice recorder, hit play. Nothing. She hit rewind. Play. Jake's voice. "I heard it again, in the dream. It's inside the trees. It's in the roots." Eric stared. That's it. That's where it started. She hit delete. The recorder blinked red, erased. The tower groaned. Outside, the doubles vanished. Just gone. Eric whispered, "We broke the cycle?" Danielle shook her head. "We rejected the pattern." The woods fell silent again. Real silent. They climbed down. The trees stood still. No voices, no figures, no tents, nothing. They walked back through the empty forest. No moss, No breath, just leaves and dirt. By sunrise, they reached the ranger station. They didn't speak. They handed over the footage. No explanation. They slept for 48 hours. When they woke, the ranger's desk had a package. No return address. Inside, 4 cups, all steaming, still warm.